the application working good or not? Spring container. Guys, please respond. First example, complete the practicals.
Yes, sir, completed.
Working good, right?
Yes, working good. Yes.
Any explanation required? Good. Guys, last class we done like application context. So new class path XML application context, right? Exactly.
Sir, one day, hello.
Tell me. Yeah.
Sir, one doubt. Actually, why we can create the HTML XML file in configuration file in between client application and the Bean class?
Because when you start the container, the container has to know how many objects it has to create, right?
Yeah, container is not understood. Yes.
Container has to know how many objects has to create, means container where it has to check. It has to check in the Spring configuration file only, right? In the Spring configuration file, how many beans you configure, then container, this is the beans we configure, right? So in the client code, in application context, when the container is started, it has to know how many objects I have to create, means how it will know, means it will go for bean.xml. In the bean.xml, how many beans we configured, it will create the objects, right? That is the reason.
Yeah. So based on XML file, we can create the Spring container objects, bean objects.
Spring container will create the number of bean objects based on the configurations done in bean.xml file, right?
Yes. Okay.
Good. Is it clear now? Yeah. Good. Guys, today we'll go for the BeanFactory there, guys. Actually, you can start the content in two ways. One is XML class path XML application context. Today we'll go for the BeanFactory. Today we'll go for which one, guys? BeanFactory, right? Yeah, this is like yesterday example client code. In the client code, just I'm creating I'm starting the container, guys. Application context equal to what? New class path XML application context, right? I'm creating the I'm starting the container, guys. When we start the container, then what happens, guys? Container will create all the bean objects which is configured in bean.xml file, right? Because bean objects are created or not? Yeah, bean objects are readily available, right? Yeah, bean objects are readily available or not available, guys? Bean objects are readily available, right? That is called application context, basically. Application context. Application context, guys. So when we start the container, when we start the container, the Spring container will eagerly instantiate the Spring container. What happened, guys? Spring container immediately, like eagerly instantiate and what? Initialize the bean objects, right? Before we requesting when we requested because when we start the container using application context, because when we start the container using application context, then what happened here? The Spring container eagerly instantiate and initialize the object before we are requesting when we request the bean object.
We request the bean object.
No, requesting bean object means we have to call the getBean method, right?
Yes.
It means before getBean method only objects are created or not? When you start the container, it means what? Before we requesting only bean objects are created, it confirms that it eagerly instantiate the bean object before we requesting the bean objects, right?
Yes.
We are requesting means what? Context.getBean method. Context.getBean method we have to use. Context.getBean method, we requested the bean object, then bean object is created means what? Then when we requested, bean object is created. If it is created in this line, but a bean objects are created in this line.
Yes, we are accessing the bean object.
We are accessing, it's fine. When we are accessing the bean object is created. When the Spring container is started, bean object is created.
When Spring container is started, that time, yes, that time is Spring object is created.
So when we start the container using application context, guys, the Spring container eagerly initialize the bean object before we are requesting what? Before we are requesting the bean object or not? Exactly, guys. Before we are requesting which object? The bean object, right? Exactly. Yes, next one is the BeanFactory. So actually, before application context, we have like BeanFactory method, BeanFactory object, guys. Yes, now let me start the container using BeanFactory. So how to start the container using BeanFactory? Okay, so to start the container using BeanFactory factory equal to BeanFactory equal to new XML BeanFactory is there. Guys, left hand side application context is interface. A class path XML application context is implementation class. Okay, the interface is holding the implementation class object. In the same way, BeanFactory is the interface. BeanFactory is holding the implementation class object. XML BeanFactory. Yes, XML BeanFactory. BeanFactory factory equal new XML BeanFactory. Here we have to give like a bean configuration file name, right? But here don't give the configuration file name directly, guys. Actually, we have to give the configuration file name new file system resource class. Guys, new file system. Yeah, new file system. Okay, resource class is there. So here we have to give the bean name like what? Beans.xml, guys. Beans.xml file, right? Guys, this is the another way you can start the container. Guys, total how many ways you can start the container? Guys, total how many ways you can start the container? Total two ways are there, right?
Two
One is
two
application
ways.
context. One is application context. One is a bean factory, right? Exactly. Guys, in earlier version, in the starting Spring 1.x, 2.x, we're using like bean factory, XML bean factory, right? Guys, but present, okay, present application, this is outdated concept, guys. That's what it says. The type XML bean factory is what? Guys, the type XML bean factory is what? Or not?
Deprecated. Outdated
Yeah,
version.
outdated version, right? Exactly. See, guys, actually, bean factory, what it will do means, you simply can run this code once. So just you can click on run button. Guys, now you can see error message. Why this error? File not found exception. Guys, what is the error here? File not found exception. Which file is not found is bean.xml. Yes, but some cases the bean.xml file is not found. Older version, right? So it's expecting like complete path, it seems. Can I take this complete path? Can I take this complete path? Here beans.xml. Okay, good. As you can take the forward slash giving the path, forward slash. You can give like forward slash. Because previously, if you give only beans.xml file, it's not recognizing. So better to give the complete path name, complete path. Now we can run this code, guys. Yes, now see the output here. Yes, previously, when application context means what happened here, bean objects are created, right? Eagerly instantiated, right? When we start the container itself. Guys, when we start the container, bean objects are created, not created. Please mute, please mute. Guys, previously when we create the application, please mute, man. Santosh Kumar, please mute. Yeah. Yes, previously what happened here in application context level, when you start the application, when you start the container, the two constructors executing, right? Yes, for example, if you comment this, if you please uncomment this, just you can run this code. Yeah, yes, when you run this code, what happened, guys? Yeah? When you start the container using application context, then these objects are created or not? When we start the container goes to beans.xml file. It eagerly instantiates and initialize the employee constructor and student constructor or not? Exactly. Because when you go for the bean factory, BeanFactory, when you run the code, is it eagerly instantiating or not instantiating, guys? Guys, is it eagerly instantiating or not instantiating? Is it creating any bean objects here? It's not creating any bean objects, right? Exactly. Because when the bean objects are created means, actually it will just start the container, guys. That's it. It will start the container. It won't create any bean objects, guys. So then when the bean objects are created, here the bean objects are created when we request the bean actually. When we request what a bean, right? That's what, guys. Factory dot can I call the get bean method, get bean of what emp, right? When we requested, guys, then you can take the employee. Guys, here type conversion recommended, making the employee dot class is recommended. Type conversion is not recommended, right? Because when you do the type conversion, if anything is goes wrong, you will get to check exception, guys. Because if you do the type conversion, if anything is goes wrong, bean configuration issues are there, then you get the class cast exception, right? Guys, you'll get to check exception, class cast exception or not. But showing the class cast exception recommended, Spring exception recommended. Definitely Spring exception recommended. Then when you'll get the Spring exception, when you give like employee dot classify something like this, right? Exactly. That is the reason, guys. Okay, see, now I requested the employee class, employee bean. When you request the employee bean, guys, now you can run this code. Yeah, e dot emp info, employee info I'm calling, right? Then simply can run this code, guys. Now see, guys, here after stars construct executing, the before stars construct executing now, guys. Before stars after stars after stars only construct executing, right? It means before stars we are starting the container. When we start the container, is it objects are creating or not creating? Guys, when you start the container using BeanFactory, when you start the container using BeanFactory, is that objects are created or not created? Guys, when we start the container using BeanFactory, when we start the container, yeah, when we start the container using what? Using BeanFactory. When we start the container using BeanFactory, guys, the objects are created, not created. The objects are what? The objects are not created, right? Not created. The bean objects are created. The bean objects are created when we call the when we request the when we request the tell me here when we request the bean object using which method, guys? Here get bean method, right? Guys, when we start the container using bean factory, the objects are not created, right? The objects are not created, guys. When the objects are created, when we request the bean object, when we request the bean objects are created when we request which method, guys? Here get bean method, right? Exactly. It means bean factory will eagerly create the object or lazily creating object. Guys, the bean factory, tell me here the bean factory lazily creates the objects when we request, right? Guys, the bean factory lazily creates the objects when we request, right? Yes or no? Lazily creates the objects when we request it, right? Exactly, guys. Because the bean factory lazily creates the object. The bean factory lazily creates the object when we request the object, right? I hope you got the clarity about the bean factory and what application context, right? Because are you clear now? This is like application context. This is like application context. That is called bean factory versus like application context, guys. In the older version, we are going for the bean factory object. In the present version, we are going for what? Application context, right? Exactly. This is like application. This is like what? Application context, right? Exactly. Yes, any questions? Tell me. I hope you got the clarity between the bean factory and application context. So bean factory versus what? Application context. One is lazily creating objects, guys, when we requested. One is eagerly creating object when the content is started, right? Yes or no, guys? Hmm? So application context. Hmm. Eagerly eagerly application context eagerly creates the objects. Tell me guys, eagerly, yeah, eagerly create the object when content is start, right? When container what starts, right? When container starts, yeah, guys. I hope you complete get the clarity about BeanFactory lazily creates the object when we request the bean, right? When we request the bean, right? Exactly. Whatever next one guys, application context eagerly creates the object when the container starts, right? Guys, and definitely which one is recommended, tell me here. Which one is recommended here? Definitely which one is recommended means, guys, which one is recommended? Bean factor recommended, application context is recommended. Application context is recommended, right? Guys, still in applications we are going for the bean factory also some of the cases. The reason is, guys, where the memory is important. See guys, actually my application contains a number of bean, n number of beans. Out of 100 beans are there, 100 bean classes are there. Out of 100 bean classes are there. At runtime, maybe I need some of the beans. I don't want all beans. If where we don't want like all beans, so now guys, definitely 100 beans are there. I don't want all the beans. Because in that case, for me, memory is important. Memory important means what? When I requested, then only create the bean. Don't create the bean unnecessarily because my memory will be occupied, more memory will occupy, right? Exactly. See, my application point of view, memory is important, guys. The application point of view, memory is important means, then which one is recommended? Tell me, guys. Memory is important means, then we using like bean factor recommended, application context recommended. Guys, memory point of view, application context, what it will do, it will create all the 100 objects immediately, right? It will occupy the more memory, right? At runtime I can use only 2 3 objects, assume. If at runtime if I can get the only 2 3 bean objects, then remaining bean will be wasted, memory will be wasted, right? Yeah, guys, where the memory is important, then which one is recommended, tell me? Bean factor recommended, application context is recommended. Definitely, some of the where the memory is important means, I think mobile platforms, right? Yes, mobile platforms memory is important, not important, because because mobile, yeah, mobile platforms, guys. Still, we have very small mobiles, right? Where the small mobiles, where the performance, where we have the less memory, right? Exactly. Yes, where the memory is concerned, guys. Where the memory is important, then use what? Guys, where the memory is important, then use what? Bean fact, right? Memory is important means what? When I requested, then only create the object. Unnecessarily don't create all objects at a time, right? So now guys, where the memory is important, then use which object, guys? Yeah. Bean fact, right? Then use bean factor, guys. Because it will create the objects when we requested it. Because tell me guys, because it will create the object, it will create the objects when we requested, right? Exactly, guys. I hope you got the clarity, right? Guys, where the memory is important, then use which one, guys? Here, bean factor, because it will create the object when we requested it. But where the memory is not important, where the memory is not important in the sense like there is no point of like memory issues, right? Where the memory is what? Where the memory is not important, so memory is not concern. Where the memory is not concern or not important, then use what? Then use what, guys? Application context, right? Application context. Where the memory is not important, guys, because it will create all objects eagerly when the container start, right? Because it will create all objects when container what? Container starts, right? Guys, still if I'm interview panel, this is a mandatory question, guys. Experience, guys, the guys who are working really on Java, this is a mandatory question. Even though bean factory is outdated, it's deprecated, but still we are using the bean factory. Some guys will ask like that question, guys. Bean factory versus what application? Guys, yes or no? Guys, do you feel like the question is important or not important? Where the memory is important, still you can use BeanFactory, right? But these days memories are very cheap. That's what it's fine. But at least the question is important, right? Guys, question is important or not important?
Important, sir.
Important, sir.
Yeah, I think you got practically. We are seeing the guys. Practically, we have to see the output. Practically, we have to see the output. I'm making the stars here. If application context means what happened, guys? After stars only. Before stars, container started. After stars only, I requested the bean object is created, right? Exactly. What about application context is now? Application context means the objects are created before star or after star. Guys, the objects are created before star or after star.
Before here.
Before stars only the objects will be created, right? Exactly. You simply can run this code. We got the before stars only objects are created or not. Yeah, BeanFactory means after stars, after container starts. Application context means what? Before stars, right? Exactly. There's in mobile platform, guys. In mobile application, where the memory is important, still we are using. Because in mobile applications, where the memory is important, okay. We are using what? Where the memory is important, use which one, guys? Here, use the BeanFactory, right? Exactly. Yes, in mobile platform, still we are using what? In mobile platform, still we are using the BeanFactory, guys. Some cases, okay. Yeah, that is the difference between what? BeanFactory versus application context. Okay, sir, clear now? Yeah, so BeanFactory, guys, when we start the container using BeanFactory, the objects are created. When we start the container using BeanFactory, the objects are created, not created, right? The bean objects are created when we request the bean object using getBean method. The BeanFactory lazily create the object when we request the bean, right? Where the memory is important, use the BeanFactory because it creates the object when we requested it. Because where the memory is important, unnecessarily I don't want all objects. Where the memory is important, simply you can go for which class, guys, now? Guys, where the memory is important, then simply we can use what? We can use like what? Where the memory is important, simply you can use like BeanFactory, right? Exactly. Guys, where the memory is not important in use application context because it will create all objects when the container what? When the container starts, right? Yeah, that is the difference between what? BeanFactory and application context, guys. Guys, any questions, please? BeanFactory application context. Guys, yesterday did you check these three exceptions? One is like bean no such definition exception. One is a class exception. One is like bean such factor exception. Bean not required type exception. Guys, yesterday practicals completed or not completed? The class is going good, right? Yes,
Good,
coming
sir.
to the versions, guys. Coming to the versions of the Spring, guys. Actually, the Spring is introduced in 2002, 0.9 version, guys. But that this one is not that much stable version, guys. The companies are not using this version to develop the application. So then 2004, guys, almost all 2004, the applications it become more popular almost all 2004, 2005 onwards, right? Because of Spring framework, guys. Yes or no, guys? Before 2005, do you have any big applications in 2000, 2002, these years? In 2002, 2005, who ruled the market, guys? Guys, up to 2002, 2005, who ruled the market? Which framework is ruled the market? Yeah. 2000, 2000 to 2005, almost all 1998, 99, 2005, up to 2005, who rules the market means Structs framework, guys. Guys, who ruled the market at that time? 2005, 2000, up to 2005, Structs is ruled the market. When the 2004 Spring is came into the market, official like the stable version is in the 2004, guys. From 2005 onwards, completely applications are moving to Spring side. Completely applications are moving toward the Spring side, right? 2004 we have the Spring 1.0 version, guys. 2006 we have like 2.0 version, like 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 also there. It's fine, but 2.6. 2006 we have like 2.0, 2009 3.0, 2013 4.0, 2017 5.0. 2017 we have the 5.0 guys. The present version of Spring is what? 5.x. The present version of Spring is what? 5.x, right? Because Spring is very good actually, because it is taking some gap, is giving like very good features actually. Because 2013 to 17 means almost is taking 4 years gap, is reason Spring 5.x, very good features. But you know, it is core Java guys, very dangerous person guys these days. Core Java, what happened guys? Every year Java, see Java present version is what? Guys, what is Java present version?
17.
17, huh? 17 released, 16 is running. Guys, 17 is running, 16 is there. Guys, present version of Java is 16 only. Yeah, 16. But in the still stable version in the application level, what they are using guys, still the stable version they are using like Java 8 and 11 only. But these days that guys introduced every year two versions are introduced. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Every year he's releasing the two versions. But Spring is not like that, guys. Spring is bit good framework. Spring is bit good framework. See guys, 0.9, 2003, almost 2003. 1.0 2004 first production release guys. Production release means what? Using this version only, 1.0 version only, they are designing the application. As 1.0 version only they're designing the application. Okay, so 2006 2.0, 2009 3.0, 2013 4.0. Almost all is taking what, 3-4 years gap, right? 3-4 years gap, right? Exactly. Okay, the first version was written by Rod Johnson. I already told you like who is author of Spring framework guys. Rod Johnson, right? Yeah, he is author of Rod Johnson guys. These guys are introduced the frameworks itself. Dependency injection, that we'll see to next class guys. Next class I need version evaluation. Batch framework, it's fine, good. Okay, these are Spring. Present version of Spring is what? Guys, the present version of Spring. This present version of Spring is like 5.x, right? 5.x.
Yes.
And this was written in what? Core Java, guys. This was written in Java. This was written in what? Java, right? Exactly. Guys, this was written in what? Java, right? Exactly. Guys, Spring is like normal framework, application development framework. Spring is like application development framework, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, application development framework, right? Exactly. The Spring Boot, we have the concept like 2014 onwards. Spring Boot 1.0 was released in which year, guys? Spring 1.0 was released in 2014, right?
Yes.
Sir, please unmute me. Santosh, unmute. Santosh, there is some disturbance. That's what we are muted. Fine. Don't think negative. Yeah, guys, we got the clarity about this like application context versus BeanFactory, right? Yeah, because you try to check this point, I think still most of the guys payments are not complete, guys. Try to complete the formalities. So these are Spring version, guys. We decided present version of Spring is like 5.x. Because you try to see practically application context and BeanFactory. Okay, and tomorrow when we meet, we'll go for the annotation, guys. So tomorrow I'll go for the annotation like @component annotation. So yesterday class we configured the bean class here, right? And next class tomorrow we will go for what? Tomorrow class we will see like component guys. By eliminating this code, by eliminating this XML code, how can we achieve the application requirement using annotations? Okay, that annotation I will see. Because every example I will make the two ways. First I will build that example using XML configuration. Then I remove XML configuration. I'll make the annotation. But ultimately in application level, what we will use? We will use like XML configuration, annotation configurations. Yes, in application level definitely we will use what? Annotation configuration, right? Exactly. Yes, if anyone is not complete the first application, I already shared the videos, right? Just to try to complete that video, and just you can check this BeanFactory and application context practically, and practically. We'll meet in tomorrow class. We'll continue, guys. Bye. Just try to complete the formalities and enter your mobile numbers, guys. Some of the guys are still not given the mobile number. Enter the mobile numbers.
Sir, where you will upload these notes?
Yes, sir.
Let me upload this notes now itself. Okay, BeanFactory application context, right? Where is the class notes link? protectest.com/spring 6 p.m. So Java. Don't postpone the practicals, guys. Every day, what I done, try to complete the practicals. Yeah, I place the notes. Just you can check the notes.
And sir, password.
Java, right? JAVA.
Okay.
Same password. Every day, same password. Yeah, this is a link for the class nodes. When you open this class, it's asking password. The password for that one is Java. JAVA is the password. JAVA is the password. Guys, any other questions? Guess the tomorrow link will be changed, guys.
Sir, no, sir. Which
me,
version we are going to cover in this session?
Spring 5.x,
Spring
latest
which version?
5.x only.
Okay.
Yes, in Java also I'd go for 16th version only. So latest versions only we can use.
Sir, will you teach the Java real-time project separately and with any course,
Separately,
or you will...
not within the course. We're planning like separately. Because we'll implement like, see, just this project implementation will take some time. Actually, we have to use the Maven tool, GitHub tool, and the Gradle tools. And we need to use the web services, Spring Boot, Spring classes. To use these all the concepts to make the applications, definitely will take the time, right?
Yes, sir. Means by the end of the course, we will introduce, right?
Yeah. Bye guys, tomorrow we'll meet. Bye. Guys, tomorrow link will be changed, guys. Try to come.